Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at some different strategies that we use to work out arrays, especially as they get bigger and bigger. And we're going to have a look at them in terms of least effective to most effective strategies. So the first strategy that we learn when we're learning to work out the answer to multiplication questions is to count by ones. So here I've got a picture of an array, and you can see that there are six columns going down and 5 rows going across. Now I know that that is the same as 6 groups of 5 or 5 groups of 6. When we're first learning multiplication, we're learning that we are just adding together all of the groups, and we could sit there and we could count them all individually. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we would get the right answer. But it is not the most efficient strategy. So the second strategy that we learn when we're doing multiplication is skip counting. Now this is a lot faster than counting by ones. So in my picture here, I've now broken them up into rows of 6, and I can skip count by 6. So I can go, I know 6 and 6 is 12, 6 more 18, 6 more 24, and 6 more 30. So this is a lot quicker than counting them all by ones. You guys are really good at skip counting groups. The other way that we can skip count is to break it off into chunks. So I know if I'm looking at this picture here, that each column had 5 in it. So I know that 2 columns is going to be 10. So I could count each set of 2 columns. So 10, 20, 30. So skip counting in chunks is definitely quicker than skip counting and by counting by ones. Or this example here, I've broken them into rows of 6, and I know that 2 6s are 12. So I've got one group with 2 6s is 12, another group with 2 6s is 12, and then I've got 6 more. So I can add them up that way. The next most efficient way of working out how many altogether in an array is the strategy that we're going to be looking at today. And this is called the distributive strategy. And it's also called breaking it apart, and it involves breaking your array up or splitting your array up into groups that you already know. So we've got the same example as before, and it was 6 groups of 5, or 5 groups of 6. So if we say we'll look at the rows, 5 rows, and there's 6 in each row. I'm not quite sure what the answer to that is off the top of my head, but I do know 5 groups of 4. I know that one off the top of my head. So I can split this array up into 5 groups of 4 and 5 groups of 2. I've still got the same amount, I've just split them up to help me work it out. And then I can say, well, I know 5 groups of 4 is 20, and I know that 5 groups of 2 is 30, and then I'm going to add them together to get 5 groups of 6, which is 30. So I've split them up. I've taken the 6 and broken it into 4 and 2. This one over here shows using the distributive strategy or breaking it apart, and they've broken it into groups of 3. So there's 5 groups of 3 and 5 groups of 3, which we know is 15, and then adding them back together, we've got 30. So we're going to have a look at some examples of this one today, of using the distributive strategy to solve arrays that we don't already know the answer for. Because of course, the most efficient way of working out arrays is knowing your times tables. If you already knew that 6 times 5 was 30 or 5 times 6 was 30, then way back right at the start, you already knew the answer. You didn't have to try and work it out. But today, we're going to be looking at the distributive strategy. So, where is it? Having a look here, my first example that I've got is 6 columns and 4 rows. So 6 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 6. Now, 6 times tables are definitely not something that I know off the top of my head. So I'm going to split it into groups that I know. So I know that instead of, I'll put my 6 at the top here. So I know that there's 6 and 4. 6 times 4 I don't know off the top of my head, but I know my 2's times tables really well, and I know 2 groups of 6 really well. So I'm going to break this apart into 2 groups of 2. Right? So instead of 6 times 4, I've now got 6 times 2 and 6 times 2. So here's one group now, and here is my second group. Because I know my doubles, I know that 6 times 2 is 12. So there's going to be 12 in the top group, and there is going to be 12 in the bottom group. And then all I need to do is add those two together. So, move my text box. I've got 6 times 4, and I broke it apart into 6 times 2 and 6 times 2. Equals. Then I worked out that 6 times 2 is 12, so I've got one lot of 12 plus another lot of 12, and my answer is 24. Can you think of a different way that I could have split that up? This one. To help me work out the answer more easily. So, I've got 4 and 6. I could have broken up my 6 because I know my 5s really well. So if I grabbed out the 6 and I put a line down here, then I've got 5 groups of 4 here, and then one more group of 4. And I know that 4 groups of 5 or 5 groups of 4 is 20, and then one group of 4 is 4, and I could have added it together like that. Let's look at one more example now before I get you guys to go and do this all by yourself. So this one here, we need to know how many spaces. Now down the side here, I've got 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4, 5, 6 rows. And here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 7 columns. So I want to work out 6 times 7. Now, to think, which facts do I know really well? Well, I know my 2's, I'm pretty good at my 5's, and I know my 10's. So what can I break up in this one to help me work out the answer? And I'm going to look at the 7. I'm going to break the 7 up into 5. There are now 5 columns on this side and 2 columns on this side. I'm going to rewrite it, write out my thinking to show what I'm thinking, and I've now got 6 groups of 5, and I've got 6 groups of 2. Alright, so 6 groups of 5, I can either use my known facts, or now I can skip count, because I can skip count really quickly from 5. So I can go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then I've got 6 groups of 2, so I could skip count by my 2's, or I can just add 6 plus 6 together, which equals 12. And then the last thing that I've got to do is add my 6 groups of 5 and my 6 groups of 2 back together to work out how many all together. All I need to do there is add my 30 and my 12 together. So your activity today is simply to hit add response and go through the arrays and work them out using the most efficient strategy you can. Don't forget to do a very short 5-10 second recording on each slide telling us which strategy you used and how you use it, and don't forget to show your thinking like I've done here. So good luck, have fun, and don't forget if you need any help to jump on at 11 o'clock.